Hey everyone, Andang here for some more brand new stuff actually. It's not more of anything. We're going to be taking a look at some of the new maps in Minas Morgul that came up on the beta server. We're going to be taking a look at some community videos that I've been wanting to watch for some time now. And it should just be a nice chill stream, just talking about all sorts of stuff and having some good old fun. So anyway, let me go ahead and get the first map loaded up here. And let's just pop on over. So here we have the Morgul Vale. This is one of the two new areas coming with Minas Morgul. As you can see up here, Cirith Ungol, the place we've already been to, but I'm guessing will be different in some way, and I'm sure we'll be going back there for story reasons. I'm sure, in fact, that we're probably going to be going to other places that we've already been in Mordor, like Barad-dûr and things like that, for story reasons. I'd be very surprised if we don't go to places like that in Mordor. Everyone, welcome to the chat, and thank you for the host, man. Really appreciate it. That was Russian. That was a Russian video that we watched at the start of the stream. Yep. Yeah, watching some community videos from the top 25 videos of all time. Just decided to throw that in there since I wasn't actually in LOTRO here tonight. So anyway, I'm guessing we're going to be going back to Cirith Ungol in a big way. It's Shelob, I'd be surprised if we don't. Obviously, we're going to be going to Minas Morgul in a really big way. And there have been some interesting things speculated about this, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. To me, this seems like a pretty small area, right? But I have to keep reminding myself that Minas Morgul should be close to the size of Minas Tirith, right? So that means that to there is possibly like the distance to Osgiliath, give or take. At least to the outer wall of Minas Tirith, which means that might be to Osgiliath. So anyway, it's not a huge area, but it seems like it's going to be, you know, Minas Tirith and Osgiliath and maybe like one other area thrown in there. So that's about the size range I think we're dealing with here. So it'll be interesting to see how they flesh that out, what stories there will be and all that kind of stuff. Later on in this video, they do show the actual map. I wish we could move that, of Minas Morgul here. And you can see the Circle of Wrath, Sorrow, Madness, and Despair. Yes, and it's the Citadel of Night. That's kind of crazy. It doesn't protrude as far as the Minas Tirith one does, which is kind of interesting. And it also only has, you know, the 5 layers, I guess you could say, assuming you can get up here. Maybe 6 even if you count that area. But they're not all labeled, interestingly enough, which I guess it only labels 4. But it seems like there's probably still more levels than it shows on this, given the amount of extra stairs that are around here. Puns? Oh yeah, of course puns. Why wouldn't there be? Oh my goodness. So anyway, that's the Morgul Vale. Doesn't seem like there's too much to it, which has me kind of concerned about this expansion. And yeah, Erwin is all about the puns, man. You can't pull anything past him. But this kind of concerns me because it's not a lot, right? So I decided, hey, we'll look up the map for Mordor Besieged. You can see that here. And it's basically just Dora Marth. It's a little bit different, but it's basically just Dora Marth, right? So that means, in theory, we really are just getting the size of 2 zones, it seems. Now keep in mind, I'm sure, I would be shocked if we don't also go to Mount Doom and Barad-dûr again in this thing. Obviously we're going to be going to Barad-dûr completed, you know, in the Second Age version over here. So that will be a thing that we'll be able to explore, which I think will be really cool, finally exploring Barad-dûr in a meaningful way. I'd be surprised if they don't do that. It's not the maps, but what's in them that's important. That's very true, Arun. That's very true. But at the same time, I don't want to be going to the same areas over and over again, right? because there's a lot of quests that they said were going to be in these two areas. So I'm hoping it's not just a bunch of filler quests. I'm hoping that they're very substantive and that we're not just left hanging, wanting more. And I really hope that we don't just keep going back to the same locations again and again and again, because I could very easily see them just going back to Barad-dûr a bunch of times, right? So hopefully that won't happen. Apparently I've heard rumors, apparently there's the Nazgul like going all over this map as roving threats, and you can apparently fight them. I don't know if you can actually like defeat them, but maybe they like run away or something, I don't know. Sadly see a lot of repeatables coming. Yeah, I'm guessing that'll be the case too. Geist Wolf, welcome to the chat, nice to have you here. So yeah, it'll be interesting. A lot of people were saying, oh, it's just a reskin version of what we already got. I disagree with that. I did see vaguely some things, and it looks pretty different than what we've seen before. It's a different landscape. It's in the Second Age. It's literally everything was torn down and then rebuilt in the Third Age, so it's going to be much more fantastical and impressive than the Mordor we saw before. Not to mention Barad-dûr in the Second Age, which is going to be one of the most impressive structures we've seen in Middle-earth ever. At least it should be. It should be pretty awesome. And see, Mount Doom is on here. Imagine if in some way, because remember, we're getting all this information from Isildur, the wraith that we found in the last update. And so imagine if we end up going to Mount Doom with Isildur, or somehow having... I know they said that all this is not going to be a session play, it's just going to be a character that's just like our character in the past, is their story conceit, but it's basically just our character. It'll be interesting if they end up letting our character in the past go to Mount Doom with Isildur, or if they'll just have it be a session play or something like that. But there has to be some Isildur Mount Doom stuff going on there, right? I don't know. That's at least the Peter Jackson version. I don't remember if that happens in the books or not. But it'll be interesting to see what they do there. How are the wraiths still around after the ring was destroyed and Sauron defeated? Will they explain that? Geist Wolf. The ring wraiths were destroyed in the version we're playing, but notice how this says Second Age up here, SA 3440. This zone is in the past. And the way they're doing, the conceit that they have to explain this is that it's a character just like our character thousands of years ago in the Second Age. Going to Mount Doom with Isildur without Elrond, treason, right? Yeah. So that's one of the two zones we're getting. So we're getting a past zone, but in theory it should be just like the zone we have, right? It should be just like a real zone is what I'm trying to say. And hopefully it'll be very different than Dol Amroth. Hopefully it won't feel at all the same, and it'll be something totally different. I mean, even like the shade of the landscape has changed back here, so and like it looks very different based on the terrain map. Like the path is still the same, I think, but the terrain looks totally different than what it used to be. Like even here, like I don't think this like hill thing even existed. Keep in mind, you know, Mount Doom has probably been doing things in the meantime. And, you know, underground things going on in Mordor that would change the terrain enough to make it feel different, hopefully. So we'll see what happens. I'm still concerned that for a $40 expansion, it's not going to be enough. But that, of course, remains to be seen. I'm holding my judgment. I'm not like freaking out and saying, oh, this isn't enough. You know, they could prove me wrong still. But I'm just preparing myself to be thinking that there's not going to be a lot of new landscape in this expansion. Now, there will be a lot of instances, more than we've had in quite some time, so that's good. And hopefully they will be really good. So I'm excited to see what they do with those instances. because I think that that will be the ultimate decider on if this was a good expansion or not. I think this expansion hangs more on the instances than a lot of expansions in the past. I'm sure the story will be great because they built up everything in the first one, right? And so now in this second expansion, it should all be, everything should be taking place. And whatever is going on with the Wraith of Isildur in the third age is somehow going to tie back to the second age, and it's going to be some type of crazy stuff, I'm sure. So I'm interested to see what they do with that, telling their very unique story here. But apparently you can't tell a story in Mordor without a Wraith. That's what we're learning here. Without a Gondorian Wraith. High elf. Hopefully high elves can play younger versions of themselves, right? Yeah, before they went in that long sleep, right? Yeah, it's gonna be a Shelob raid. Like that, I feel like, obviously you can mess up a Shelob raid, but I feel like it's gonna be pretty hard to mess up a Shelob raid, right? Like, it pretty much has to be awesome fighting a giant spider, I would imagine. So we'll see what goes on there. But overall, initial impressions of what's coming out of beta is, I'm not really excited. I'm not really disappointed yet. I'm just hoping that there will be plenty of stuff for us to enjoy, which I'm sure there will. They didn't disappoint with Mordor, in my opinion anyway. I really enjoyed the Mordor expansion, and hopefully this will be really good as well. That's kind of my thoughts so far. Guy Swift says, I love the films, but Elrond being there with Isildur on the flank, so to speak, didn't sit well with me. He could have stopped him right there. And then also he said, men are weak, which I found laughable. You mean your brother and dad were weak? Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Yep, yeah, that whole situation was very un-Elrond, right? Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's epic at first, but then you realize, no, no, that's not how Elrond would be. So yeah, I agree. We'll see what LOTRO does with it. I'm imagining there'll be some pretty dramatic stuff in this. Like the idea of going back to the Second Age, though, yeah. Yeah, I do like the concept. We'll see how the execution is. But I really, really like the concept of starting to tell stories and other timelines in LOTRO. It took them long enough. I like this idea so much more than session play, right? Like this, in theory, should be such a better version than session play. Because every time we did session play, it was very disappointing because there were like no skills on your character, right? There were some fun things, like the skills they gave like Gollum and Frodo, for example, when we session played as them in certain situations. Those were really cool. But outside of that, and some of the skill titles were amazing. But outside of that, I think in general session play was pretty much a failure. Players don't like that time when they're being constricted to that. I feel like players understand it for story reasons, but I at least do not like the session play gameplay. I love the story they're telling during session plays, but I hate the gameplay for session plays. It was on Elrond because he was out of his library. That's true, everyone. That is absolutely true. I almost combined your name with Elrond's. That is very true. Alright, so those are the maps. I'm trying to stay away from beta spoilers too much. I'm trying not to watch too much because that's the whole reason I'm not doing preview videos anymore. I'm trying to stay away from spoilers and enjoy the zone when it comes out and have a lot more fun when it goes live. So that's my point of view. But a huge thanks to everybody that goes on to beta and checks this stuff out and beta tests and does all that stuff, because the game's made that much better with it, right? Eric, welcome to the chat. Nice to have you here. So I am a little bit concerned. Today during Court of the Rings, Cordovan did say that the expansion is still planned for release in 10 days. And hopefully it'll be ready, right? I'm not To be fair, there does seem to be less landscape and things like that for them to be doing. It's also been quite some time since the previous update to LOTRO, so they should have had plenty of time to build this out. It is releasing much later in the year than Mordor did, and so, you know, in theory, they should have had more time to build this expansion and don't need as much beta testing. But at the same time, it definitely feels like they're rushing to get it out before the holidays, because when the holidays happen, you know, it all shuts down at Turbine. They take long vacations because they basically don't have very many vacations throughout the year, so they get a lot of time off then. Dwalls, thank you so much for the follow. Really appreciate it, man. You got us to 670 followers now. Big thanks, man. They'll open the beta the day before. Well, they already had one round of beta. That's how we're getting all this information, right? But it'll be interesting to see what happens in future rounds of beta and how they can actually like take that feedback in time, you know? You asked Epic Uber who you were, and he said you were a good guy. So I hope you are. All right, I got that expectation now to be a good guy, apparently. Epic Uger's setting me up for like high expectations with all of you, I suppose. Welcome to the chat. Nice to have you here. And yeah. I don't know what to say. I guess I'm a good guy. I'll let the chat talk if I'm a good guy or not. That's opening up a can of worms. But anyway. You play LOTRO on Landy? Hey, guess what, buddy? I play LOTRO on Landy too. Fluffy, welcome to the chat. Nice to have you here. Welcome, welcome. Man, you're making me think of Gabriel Iglesias and his 5 levels right now. And you're a weird guy. I mean, I don't disagree, everyone. I don't disagree. Especially with some of the stuff you guys do. I feel like makes me even weirder. But anyway, I'm cautiously optimistic about Minas Morgul. I feel like I'm less excited than I was when I purchased the expansion. I feel like I was much more excited on that initial release of information. Nothing wrong with weird. There we go, there we go. So anyway, well, if you guys have anything else you want to talk about Minas Morgul, feel free to put it in the chat. Feel free, if you're on YouTube, put it in the comments. If you're on Twitch, put it in the VOD comments after. I do see those. But I don't really know how to respond to them because, you know, they're in the time, and, you know, respond on Discord. We can talk in a bunch of places about it, but right now I'm feeling like this is I'm cautiously optimistic to see what they're gonna do.